So I have this other hat, not as a researcher, but also as a forest owner in northern Sweden. And together with a friend of mine who is also a forest owner, Leif Öster, we have been thinking of, these arguments that private forest owners are important for the forest industry. There's a lot of discussions in Sweden about ownership rights and the role of forestry in rural areas. And there are a lot of the questions there that we found interesting to look into. And I will just make a very short presentation of this here. So in Sweden, we have about half of the forest being owned by people like myself, so non-industrial private forest owners. Industrial companies own 23%, and then the state, other public owners and forest commons and municipalities, they own 28%. So I will talk about the red piece of the cake here. So we represent the owners which are marked yellow on this map. So in the southernmost, let's say, quarter of Sweden, about 80% of the forests are owned by non-industrial private forest owners. In the mountains, the state is a big owner. And then in the rest of Sweden, there is usually a mixture of forest industry and non-industrial private forest owners. So if we look at the whole population of forest owners, the number has dropped a little bit over the last 20 years. So from 1999 to 2020, it dropped from, in total, a bit over 320,000 forest owners, and today it's, I think, 313,000 forest owners. And most of them are very small. So if you look at the median size, so half of the forest owners, 50% of the forest owners, they own, I think it's 12 or 13 hectares, women a little bit less and men a little bit more. There is a kind of rule of thumb that says that if you own 400 hectares, then you are most likely to be able to survive on average in Sweden on doing forestry to produce wood. Of course, you would require less in southern Sweden and more in northern Sweden because of the quite large differences in growth rates. But overall in Sweden, it's only 0.7% that own more than 400 hectares. So most forest owners are small, simply. And then we were curious about, at least try to estimate the monetary income from doing forestry. And we did this by estimating let's say the potential median income on the one hand. So just looking at wood prices, transport cost to regenerate, cost for well, anything that you need to spend money for to produce wood. And the median income is about €1,000 per year. If you have inherited the land, so you don't have any loans, if you have borrowed money for all of it, then you will have a small deficit every year. And if you own 400 hectares, and we assume this is sufficient to live from, at least for one person, then it's less than 1% of all owners that satisfy this criteria. And another peculiarity is that when you estimate the price of a forest estate, this is estimated as a price per cubic meter, but that price per cubic meter in real estate is much higher than what you get paid from selling the wood to the industry. So this means that to harvest actually means a loss of profit if you think about this in the long term, and that you want to, let's say, keep it for 10 years as an investment, which many people do. I mean, you can buy stocks or an apartment in London or whatever, but buying property is also an asset investment. and it actually costs money to harvest if you think about comparing forestry versus real estate. And then we found a very interesting report from, I think, last year. It's a government investigation that has gone through all the tax declarations of about 220,000 forest owners in Sweden. So when you declare your income, there is a special form, and then you can look at the net income. And of course, when you declare your income, you can deduct from tax costs that you've had. So of these 220,000 forest owners, 60% declare a loss. 17% declare zero income, and 20% declare a positive net result, so an income. So most forest owners are actually not making money. What is also interesting is to look at people's perceptions of what is important. So there is something called the Forest Barometer, which is something that is compiled by basically a real estate company and a bank. And they ask forest owners every year, what is most important for you? So these red and brown colors are, let's say, the pleasure of owning forest, their appreciation of the positive development in real estate. So this is about a third. This is the green color is recreation and hunting. Blue is I don't know. And over this 11-year period from 2010 to 2021, the only trend which is statistically significant is forestry income. So the running income from making money on harvesting wood. And this is a negative correlation. So this is non-parametric test. So the p-value is 0.86 and is highly significant. How do you get rid of this? I don't want to. So another thing which is important is also to understand the role of forestry for rural jobs. So the share of GDP in Sweden has dropped from 12% in 1960 to 2.2% in 2020. A lot of especially young people got jobs in forestry to do pre-commercial thinning and to plant trees, but this doesn't take place anymore. So a recent study showed that 97% of this kind of forest management, I mean, to make the trees grow and to steer the stand towards a desired direction, is not carried out by Swedes anymore, but by guest workers from Romania, from Bulgaria, for example. And of course, that's wonderful for people who live in rural areas in those countries, but it's not really helpful for Swedish countryside. And as I said, less than 10% of the owners focus on income from wood. Instead, there are other values which are important. And the graph is quite interesting. I have compiled a long series of numbers from 1951 to 2019. And this is the gross value of forestry. So this is the value of the wood, the blue line. And of course, then you have to deduct the costs for harvesting. You have to deduct the cost for planting new forests. So the green line is actually the net result. And you can see that this has declined very much in the beginning, and it has stayed at a quite low level. And this dotted or dashed red line shows the real estate value. And if you put the ratio of property value, so real estate value versus the remaining value of forestry, having paid for the harvest and the planting of a new generation of trees, you see a dramatic increase over the last 20-something years. So it really illustrates what we saw in a previous slide. I don't remember who showed it, but the whole idea of forestry has changed from one period where forestry was fantastically profitable. Sweden had not been to joined any wars, and the Korea crisis came, and the wood prices were absolutely amazing. Then there was a long period when things were quite okay, but now towards the end, it has changed to a third period where actually forestry is much more about real estate management than forestry. So the point I want to raise, or we wanted to raise, Leif and I, is that there are simply many currencies. You can get monetary income from harvesting. You can get monetary income from nature-based tourism. You can be developing own smart products from your forest. This could be based on wood or non-wood products, or just experiences, or asking, showing people how to cut a tree or whatever. And then you also have a lot of values which actually are very important, and this is social values. So you maintain contacts with your roots if you come from that area, which is the case for me. There is a lot of cultural values, especially because there is often on a forest estate some other houses and a cultural landscape that you might be interested in caring about. It's about your own recreation, your own feeling regarding sense of place, and as we've hinted about, that there could be new products like carbon offsettings, and of course there are many others as well. So the bottom line is that this indicates that there is opportunity for diversification, which we heard Martin Jensen talk about, that the market for doing different things is increasing. So on the left hand, you have the typical Swedish clear cut with retention trees. There is in the middle shelter wood stand with enough sparse canopy so pine can regenerate. And you have a single tree selection system in the southernmost part of Sweden, where you both have shade-tolerant beech and shade-tolerant spruce. And finally, I have a question to all of us, and this is, in the previous talk, we heard someone saying that there was a target in Finland to produce 80 million cubic meters of wood. But why is wood volume a good indicator? This is the data in Sweden from 1956, and the most recent figures are from 2017. There is nothing more recent. It will come in the autumn. And the blue shows the available growth. And this has dropped quite a lot towards the end, simply because these are set-asides, so areas that are not available for wood production. So these are voluntary and formally protected areas. And then this is the sum of the harvest, and this area in between here is the natural disturbances that Lena Gustafsson was talking about. So this is the big storm in 2005 and 2007, I think. And actually the last figure here shows that Sweden has harvested 97% of the available or accessible growth. And the question is, should increasing the wood volume be the target, or should increasing the value of the wood, simply the products that you produce? Just as an example, I found an interesting paper showing that approximately Germany and Sweden harvests the same amount of wood. Germany has 5 times as many employees in the forest sector because they make more valuable products. So it seems that a more important variable to measure as success would be the number of jobs, the number of inhabitants in the municipality, human well-being, or just different things. So I leave it there.